This is Top Shop Podcast.
Shop Podcast.
Top Shop Podcast.
A show way beyond the story. Get ready to accelerate your knowledge and stay ahead of the competition. Podcast for automotive service business owners by Paul Donahue.
Greg, thanks for taking your time to be on the Top Shop Podcast. We really appreciate it. Greg has owned Northwest Collision for how long now?
27 years.
27 years. So longest running single name auto repair, body repair shop in the St. Petersburg area. So Greg Descent. Definitely one of the more successful shops in the nation. He started off with just a couple of guys in a really small shop. When we met Greg, he was doing around $350,000 a month in revenues. Now he's, I think, approaching $600,000 or something. So he wanted to rank number one in for Tesla because he's got the contract with Tesla and he's got the reputation and the reviews. So even though they opened up an actual Tesla in Tampa, people still take their cars to him because he's done his digital marketing right, he's done his reviews right, and he's really got a thriving and growing business. So can you share with us? I got some questions here. Can you share your journey to success? Give us, yeah.
So I had worked in the industry as a technician and had an opportunity to purchase Northwest Collision from the original owner, Jim Greenlee, in 1996. Came on board and was running the shop with two other people. And basically from that point, we just grew the company to where we are today, which we have 22 employees, and we have expanded once, and we just recently expanded again to an even bigger facility.
Yeah, that's really that's exciting news. Greg had an auto dealership right across the street. The auto dealership moved. His business has been growing. They bought the auto dealership and have expanded. So you're going from what square feet to how many square feet, Greg?
Currently we're at about 15,000 square feet. So we're adding an additional 22,000 square feet.
22,000 square feet. So wow, 37,000 square feet. And you started off with how many square feet when you first bought Northwest Collision?
Approximately about 6,500 square feet.
6,500. So what were the key milestones or turning points you think in your shop? I know one thing for sure because you mentioned it last time you and I chatted. It's Jack, that one employee that you have, one team member that you have that's really helped you take a lot of responsibility and get a lot of it's like you times two, right?
Yeah, he's definitely a great asset and really has helped us to do repairs more in keeping with the manufacturer's requirements. I think one of the biggest decisions early on in our history was to not be involved in direct repair. To a great extent, we do have one direct repair relationship, which we've had for, probably since the 90s. But that insurance company pretty much lets us, repair the cars the way that the manufacturers require the cars to be repaired. The problem with direct repair is that it creates a conflict between the way that the manufacturers require the vehicles to be repaired and the less expensive ways of doing things that are traditional in the industry. So it shifts the focus of doing collision repair from what is classified as industry standard to a manufacturer standard. So industry standard would be like the way that all the shops in a local area perform their repairs. That's what the insurance companies like to use as a reference. They like to say an industry standard. A manufacturer standard is the way the specific manufacturer of the vehicle dictates that the car should be repaired. And really, I mean, it doesn't take much common sense to realize that a car should be repaired, the way that the manufacturer says it should be repaired, even if it's just for purely the sake of safety, let alone appearance and function as well.
Okay. What are the challenges that you faced in the early stages? You just bought the business. You went from actually working on the cars to going from to the owner. And I know this is a tough transition for a lot of companies. Going from working in the shop to working on the shop. So it always reminds me of that favorite quote. And I have a challenge with this in my company too. Megatrends by John Nesbitt, the big thick book. I remember one thing: Ray Kroc went to work on a hamburger stand, not in a hamburger stand. So I try to remember that. So, but it's a hard thing to do, to make that transition. What was like the challenges that you felt in the early stages when you were just starting out?
Well, obviously a customer base, not having a very large customer base to start out with, and developing the customer base and doing it where you are not involved in a direct repair program. It takes a much longer amount of time to build up a customer base, because you're basically earning your customers one at a time, based on their experience and the relationship that you make with them. Other challenges would be learning how to run the business, and how to be profitable.
Right.
So it's easy to do a lot of work, but if you're doing a lot of work and you're not making a lot of profit, then you're not really as successful as you could be.
Correct. Yep. What are the core values or the guiding principles that you feel that have contributed to your success?
Establishing procedures and taking your best employees and your core group of people and establishing those people as being your anchors in the procedures, so that it becomes a culture of the shop to perform repairs in a certain way. And then as new people come in, they can come into that environment, and it's easier for them to get on board with the way that things need to be done.
Okay. Yeah, I got a brother-in-law. He runs one of the largest dealerships in a franchise nationally. It's in Ohio. And I've got I don't know how many books in my office here that I've read on management. And I asked him, because he manages like 175 people or something at this dealership. And I asked him, I says, what's your management philosophy? He says, I put systems and processes in place. I get really good people to work to do those systems and processes, and I treat my staff like family. Oh, wow. That's a pretty good management philosophy.
Having a relationship with your employees is really important, because no two people are the same. So it's good to know what makes people tick, what motivates them. And like I said, having a relationship with someone is important, because it lets them know that you're a real human being and that you care, about their life and their family, and what their needs are as well.
Okay. How do you approach decision making in your business? I mean, do you have specific strategies or frameworks? I try to use the Ben Franklin, do good on one thing, bad on the other. That sometimes helps me make decisions. Or do you have any kind of special decision making that you use? Or
Well, ultimately, I would make the decisions with regard to policy or procedures, but getting a lot of feedback from the people that work here is important.
yeah, okay.
I like Teddy Roosevelt, the man in the arena. So he talks about the credit belongs to the man who's in the arena, whose face is marred with dirt and blood and sweat, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short. And it doesn't belong to the people that are basically spectators, who point out how, the strong man stumbled. And in the end, the person who is in the arena, he may win or he may lose, but he will never find himself amongst the cold and timid souls that know neither victory nor defeat. So
that very well.
You have to take a chance. You have to be in the arena. You have to be trying. You have to be doing new things. You have to have courage. We all know what the definition of insanity is. So if something's not working, you have to have the courage and the perseverance to try something different.
Yep, that's what we try to look for, shops that they want to grow, so we have to say, hey, you got to do things different, got to do your digital marketing different, got to do the website different, got to do things different. And the ones that we feel that resist, we don't want them as clients. The ones that we feel like, I want to grow. So, you've done just since a little over 2.5 years, almost 3 years, your growth has been phenomenal. You've almost doubled. So that's fantastic. But going back to what you said, it's moving forward, whether you stumble or not. Hey, I want to grow my business by another 100,000 a month. What do I need to do that? And then taking actions on getting that down. Whether you and plan on failing. I tell people that we're taught in schools failure is bad, but actually, if you look at success, the fastest way to success is the failure way to success. So the more that you get out and Wayne Gretzky, you can't make the shot you don't take. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah. So Wayne Gretzky took more shots than anybody else. That's why Babe Ruth swung the baseball bat more times than anybody else. He struck out more times than anybody else too, but that's because he swung the bat more times. Can you describe a major setback or failure that you encountered along the way and how you overcame it? This is a question I love asking people, because we all have a point sometime in our business and it was tough, but I made it through, and here's how I did it.
I think that in the United States as a whole, probably one of the biggest challenges is human resources. So you have all kinds of people that you can train and put into positions, and with the idea that, you would keep them, but we find that, we train people so well that it makes them attractive to other facilities who woo them away, and then we lose people. So we have to start over again. There's a shortage of, technicians in our industry. So we, again, there's no choice but to train people to do things the way that we want to do them here, because every shop is a little different than another one, but and risk that might happen. So we've lost some, very good technicians that we spent a lot of years in investment in, and that's always a setback. And the thing that we try to learn from it is, how can we keep the people that we grow? And there's no magic formula for that. It's just a matter of doing your best to, try to compensate them well and maintain a good relationship and make them believe that they're working in a good place. That goes back to the relationship thing that we talked about.
Right. Yeah. Preaching to the choir. In fact, all repair shops and most businesses, I look at some of the people that we spent, years working with and paying for their training, and then they end up going and leaving and going elsewhere. So I think we've all felt that. Have you had a lot of people, they look for a mentor? Like, I belong to a mastermind group. We just got back from Miami. I really get a lot of guidance from them, and then I've got some mentors that I really look to, that's helping me grow my business. Did you have a mentor in your business at all, or anybody that you kind of talk to or look to. So the guy that runs the mastermind agency, he's always had a coach or a mentor, and he's done really, really well following that. So, but I'm just curious, did you ever have a mentor or anybody that you kind of followed or asked advice to, or?
I think all along the way, there were certain peoples at certain times that, I looked up to and, fashioned myself after and, followed their lead. But then as time went on, basically, just because someone else does certain things a certain way, you may learn that those ways are not good for you or right for you in the long run. And then you start to adopt, your own ways of doing things, and you take information, very good information as a mentor, not an actual person, but it pays to do a lot of research and on the way that things should be done, and then that becomes your mentor.
Okay, yeah, that's good advice. Any key habits or routines that you find that are like really beneficial? You get in at a certain time, you do certain things. Any routines or habits that the repair shop that's maybe just getting started could take some direction from?
I think that, and there would be always some people that don't agree with, what I would say, but I feel like success, a lot of it is predicated on the amount of time and energy that you invest into a business or whatever it is that you're doing, entrepreneurial ships or whatever they are. So most of the people that I see that are successful, not all, but most of the people that I see are successful, they really they invest a lot of time and energy into their business. So we start early, and we work, it's not uncommon to work a 15-hour day is pretty much standard. Come in at 5 and leave at 8. That's pretty much a standard day. So
Yeah.
And I know some people don't need that to, be successful, but apparently I'm not as good as other people. So that's the way I have to do it. And I think that that might work for a lot of people, and the more that time they invest and the more energy they put in, I think the more successful they will be. That's a belief of mine.
I agree. It's hard work. I'm 7 to 7, and then I try to watch a 1 hour of training in the mastermind group I belong to before I go to bed. So I put in my 12, 13 hours a day too. And oh, by the way, just for everybody watching this podcast, this is Saturday at 11:20 in the morning. So just let everybody know. So playing along that last question, can you share any strategies for balancing work life? Because you've got a daughter that's like incredible. She's an Olympic contender for swimming. So
I wouldn't say she's an Olympic contender, but she did go to states, and,
right? Or
yeah, she went to states and she placed in states, so she does really well. And she's only a sophomore in high school, so she that's a lot of it's going to be up to her how she finishes up. But I think that the balance is going to be based on what an individual's needs are. So, if you have a family, you have a wife, you have children, you have other activities, you have things that you do, you cater your balance to whatever that is. What's important to you is what will work for you. You don't have to, I could say, well, divide your time 50-50, or I could say something, but that's not a formula that would work for everybody. And if your family is understanding and they appreciate, the lifestyle that you provide for them, then they would be more understanding to you putting in time. If they're not, and your wife says you need to be home at 5 o'clock and eat dinner, then that's probably what you should do. It comes under the
happy
life, right? So,
yeah.
it just a balance is something that each individual has to find for themselves. You don't want to say to someone, this is what you need to do to be balanced. That might not work for them. So,
Right.
but they do need to be conscious of whatever their needs are, and then, make their balance for their own life and what works for them and works for if they're not married, they're single, that their balance could be entirely different. So it just varies from person to person.
Yeah. Okay. So each person needs to assess their own work-life balance and apply
Right.
it. So, and you found yours. I mean, you've got, a
Right.
daughter that's in high school and, state competition. So that means a lot of, travel and going to different places.
Actually, I have two
Two.
daughters that compete
Right.
at a state level. Yeah.
Oh, both of them are competing on state level.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And the younger one's only in eighth grade, so
Oh.
they're both doing very well. I mean, if they continue, if they have a passion for it and they continue, yes, they will do very well. But that's not, for me to say whether they will. Of course, I hope that they carry on and they maintain, 4 hours of practice a day and trying to keep up their, scholastic, academic performance. But they're becoming adults now, so the decision will ultimately be to them to decide, how they're going to go.
Right. All right. Well, great. That's a good answer. So, but just real quick, are both of them competing in swimming? So one's swimming, is the other one?
They're both swimming.
Both. Okay. All right. So what are some of the important lessons you've learned about managing finances and making wise investments? Because you just bought a car dealership, so you would know a little bit about that.
Well, I mean, you have to evaluate, where you're at, and and what you can do and what you can't do, and then at the end of the day, it's going to be a calculated risk. You're going to stretch yourself to go to the next level. And for me, I'm just in the stages of, renovating the facility and getting ready to move in. So, when I came to this facility 7 years ago, it was the same thing. Like, it was a lot of outlay of capital and a lot of investment, a lot of time, and the unknown was whether or not, it would be successful. And there's still that to some degree. Nobody can look in their crystal ball and say, oh, well, if I do this, man, I'm just going to do really good. And you think that, and you look at the numbers and you look at, what you can do and what you, can't do, and how much more work you could schedule or, take in. But in the end, you have to decide, what is going to work with your financial, situation, and it's challenging. So, at whatever level you're at, if you can achieve, in whatever size facility you're in, if you've achieved to a point where you're maxed out your facility, you don't have any room for any more people to work, you're maximizing your jobs, in profit, then the next logical step is to, move on. We have a lot of people that now in our current facility that we're turning away because, we can only book things out like 2 or 3 months out. So, and even most people won't wait that long to get their car fixed. So we end up, turning, and that's something that if we had a bigger facility, we could take in. So it's more about, we have a large customer base and we really want to be able to fill the demand for our customer base to come to us instead of going somewhere else, because they get kind of upset with me and they'll say, well, I've come to you for years, how come you can't get me in right now? And I'm like, no, we're kind of booked up. So it's tough like that, and you don't want to disappoint. So it's I just like what I do. I really enjoy it. So the value in it for me is not so much to, make more money or do better. It's really just to meet the demand for, the customers that we have and continue to, take care of them and have space. We're really crowded for space. We have no room for parts. We have no room for cars. We're just, we need more space. So even if we maintain the level we're at now, we'll be fine. I mean, even if we don't do any more work, we'll be able to, um, afford the expansion. But obviously, if you have room, you can add techs, and then you can take in more work, and it seems logical that it's going to work out.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think you made a really important, like what you do,
Yeah.
So, like what I'm doing right now, this is what I love to do: flap my jaw. All that stuff in the back end, because there's a bazillion moving parts to like an auto body repair.
Yep.
Just like
Absolutely.
my company's got a bazillion moving parts in the back end. But what I like doing is I like doing the front end work. I like, so you got to really find out what you like to do and make sure that you get the other stuff taken care of so you can do what you like to do, which is, grow the business and, be the leadership with the vision. So I took I've taken this online leadership course, and he broke it down pretty simple, just vision, systems, people. So, and I really like that real simple philosophy. So the ones that have the vision, which are us, the owners, we just really have to like what we do, and obviously you do it well. So what trends or developments do you see that are shaping the industry?
Well, I mean, the vehicles are changing. One thing I wanted to say with regard to people, because you held up that note with people on
Sure.
it. My opinion is that a lot of people will say the customer is king, customer is number one, and the customer is really important because obviously you can't get work without a customer. But really, in my opinion, your employees are number one. Your employees will be with you. If you have good employees and you take care of them, they will be with you, for a long time. And they're basically like your family because you spend more time with them than you do with your family. So they have to be number one. A customer, you want to make sure a customer is happy, you want to take care of them, you want to address their needs, but you should never put a customer over an employee. It's just your employees have to be number one. They are the foundation of everything. So go ahead, ask me the other question that you wanted to ask me. What was it?
Actually, that's a good reminder for me also. And by the way, that's Richard. What you just said just instantly reminded me of Richard Branson. That's his philosophy. He says your employees are number one. Because if your employees aren't taken care of and they're not happy, they're the ones that take care of the customers.
Yeah.
So what you just said is a multi-billionaire's philosophy that he implemented a long time ago. He figured out a long time ago his employees were first. Because if they weren't happy, if they weren't taken care of, they're the ones that take care of the customer. So by trying to put the customer first, the employee second, he said no. And that's what most companies do. They put the customer number one, subjecting so your philosophy is Richard Branson's philosophy. So works pretty good. A lot of changes happening in the automotive repair industry, auto body repair, the whole industry, auto repair and auto body repair. We're moving towards the electric cars, full steam ahead. So just real quick, what trends or developments are you see shaping your industry, and how are you preparing for that?
Well, I already touched on this a little bit about the way the manufacturers, want the vehicles repaired.
Right.
So there's so much more information on the way that vehicles should be repaired. There's so many ADAS systems in vehicles nowadays that you really can't start repairing a vehicle unless you research every vehicle and all the processes and procedures that you're going to perform on the vehicle so that you can understand and do those correctly. You couldn't remember everything for every vehicle. So you've literally got to have access to information for all these vehicles. And on a case-by-case basis, every time you start to do a repair or you're preparing an estimate for these cars, you've got to go into the manufacturer's information, to their websites, and access their information and carry that over to your repair plan. And your repair plan, we used to say, hey, we're going to write an estimate, but we really don't write estimates. What we really do is we write repair plans, because there's really only one way to fix the car. and that's the way that the manufacturer specifies the car needs to be repaired. So it shouldn't be an estimate, and it wouldn't be an estimate if you're doing a complete this is for collision. If you're doing complete disassembly on the vehicle, which is really tough sometimes to get the technicians to do that, but you've got to, again, that's part of the process, part of the culture. Do that complete disassembly, inspect every part, go over the vehicle, and then create a repair plan. So then your repair plan doesn't need to change if you do that. I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it should, for the most part, not need to change. Maybe subtle changes, maybe some parts got superseded, or maybe some small items were missed or whatever. But for all, you will actually have a repair plan, and then you can stick to that repair plan. Because that's the way the shop doesn't dictate the repair. The damage to the vehicle dictates the repair. Whatever's damaged, you look back to what the manufacturer says, and that's what dictates the repair. Whatever, in other words, if something is damaged to the point where it can't be repaired or it shouldn't be repaired, there are many, many items on vehicles nowadays that are one-time use, and you take them off the car, and once you take them off the car, they have to be replaced. So the damage to the vehicle dictates the repair plan. And if you follow it, the most challenging thing, and there will only be more and more systems as autonomous vehicles are coming, electric vehicles are coming, more and more systems. I mean, now we have so many systems in the car that we've become accustomed to, and yet maybe 10 or 15 years ago, we didn't have hardly any of these systems in the car. We didn't have blind spot, and we didn't have adaptive cruise, and we didn't have, camera, that, keep control, lane keep assist, and all the rest of that stuff. So all these things are in cars, and whenever, you're even taking a bumper off a car, there are requirements of things that you need to, there are calibrations that have to be done. So cars are getting much more complicated. Back to the root of your cars are getting much more complicated, and there's a requirement in the repair plan to do the research, document that research in your repair plan, so that you can educate the customer as to the things that need to be done. And you don't have to come back later and go, oh, hey, now that we took the bumper off, we didn't realize it, but hey, we've got to do calibrations. Or now that we put a new headlight in, the headlight has to be programmed it has to be initialized. That, there's so many things that it's no longer just, mom and pop, and, they just, hammer the dent out and paint the car. And, it's not, I mean, they can still do that, but then there are things that are getting overlooked. And the key thing, the fundamental thing on repairing a vehicle is safety. I mean, obviously we want appearance and function to be good, but they take a back seat to safety. Safety has to be number one. It has to be, you can't overlook not doing something that is important to the driver's safety, because ultimately whoever's fixing the car is supposed to be the expert. And if something happens, it'll come back to them. You could find yourself in court one day sitting there and the judge saying, well, you should have known, you're the expert, you fixed the car, you should have known, you should have researched this, you should have repaired the car correctly. There's a lot more liability on people that are fixing cars nowadays because of these liabilities, and people that run these places need to be aware, and they need to make sure they do these things. And the unfortunate part of that is they have to charge for these things. And that's why if you have the information, you can educate the customer and let them know, hey, we have to charge you for this because XYZ car manufacturer says, this is what we have to do if we do this work.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah, you take off a bumper and put it back on, it's not calibrated right, and it has that auto stop thing, and it's,
Right. Yeah. Adaptive cruise, right.
Sure. Yeah. So the good answer. Thorough, that's for sure. So it's just staying on top of what's going on and then just doing it right the first time. So that goes back to a business philosophy. Just do it right the first time, So go the extra mile. My dad used to tell me, just go the extra mile and business will take care of itself. So obviously you're a shop that goes the extra mile, it gets the repairs done correctly. And, people that think that they're taking shortcuts aren't really taking shortcuts. It's just causing more problems than anything else. So just doing it right the first time. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
If you as a business, if you practice, doing things right, you may lose some customers because of the dollar amount, but you'll actually find yourself in the minority of shops, because if someone wants to look for something that costs less money, there are much more competitors for that market than there are for doing things correctly and the quality and making sure that the vehicle's safe. So you'll separate yourself. You may feel like you regret losing a job because of, oh, well, I couldn't do the job because this guy wanted me not to do this and not to do that. And I know we need to do that. So he didn't want to pay for that. So he's going down the road to this other place where they're not going to do that. You may lose them, but in the long run, you'll put yourself in the minority where quality will create its own demand.
Yeah, really preaching to the choir there with me, because all of our digital marketing growth programs start at a higher dollar amount. But because there's so many things that we do that other companies don't, that we know that, well, if we didn't do these, we could just charge a lesser amount, but then we're not going to get the kind of result that we want for the client. So there was that balancing act. And I'm like, well, no, let those shoppers that want that lower amount, you get what you pay for. So, just the process that we do to create blogs is way over and above what a lot of other companies do, but then it shows in the results, so like we've had you ranking #1 for Tesla auto body repair in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Clearwater, and Sarasota for over 2 years now. So that's really affected your bottom line. This is one of my favorite questions. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur? He's just getting his shop open, maybe in his first year. What's that bottom line advice that you would give to that shop owner? Work hard.
Trying to think of this president, and I can't think of his name, but he had another one of the dead presidents, Calvin Coolidge.
Calvin Coolidge. He has a speech where he says, persistence is omnipotent. Perseverance and persistence is omnipotent. The world is full of, what it makes you succeed. Talent. The world is full of unrewarded talent. Genius. The world is full of derelict geniuses. Persistence and perseverance is omnipotent over all things. So, if you haven't quit, you haven't failed. So as long as you can financially maintain, put yourself in a good situation where you don't overburden yourself with, expenses initially. Try to, like for people, sometimes if they're in a family situation, maybe they're married, maybe their wife has a job, and, it has to be a team effort. The husband can go out and try to start a business, or even the wife could go out and try to start a business. And meanwhile, the other, spouse maintains the home, and you don't pay yourself. I literally did not pay myself for a year when I started. I paid myself zero, and my wife was a nurse, and she paid all the bills. So you got to put yourself in a situation where you can financially maintain, where as long as you don't physically or emotionally quit, and you can financially maintain, then you should be all right. And you got to like what you do. I mean, if it's something that you really have a passion for, I think you'll be good at it. And then you have to if you're working with people, you have to perform really good customer service. I mean, you really have to be you have to get the congeniality award, and you have to be a good listener with people. That's part of dealing with the public. If you don't have patience for people, then you probably shouldn't deal with the public. Right, that's for sure. That's
Or
one
you,
thing.
or you better learn.
Yeah, yeah, that's one thing I'm glad that I do. I'm B2B. I only deal with other business owners. I do not have to deal with the public. I did own a business, two of them, where I had to deal with the public. I won't do it again. So hats off to you there. But what I do here, Greg, is the age-old recipe: sacrifice, hard work, persistence. That's
Yeah.
pretty much it. So,
Yeah.
and then I don't know who said this, but hey, just it's work 12 hours a day, every single day, and somewhere between your eighth and your 10th year, you get lucky because all the people that see our success say, oh, look how lucky he is, So, but I don't know who said that, but that was great. Just work 12 hours a day, and don't worry. Somewhere between your 8th and your 10th year, usually on average, you'll get lucky. So, Greg, I really want to thank you for your time today. Any books or resources or tools that you've ever read that have had a significant impact on your life? Awaken the Giant Within was a big one for me. By Tony Robbins. Anything that you any books or resources?
The Bible
Great answer.
is good for many things. There's a lot of truth. There's a lot of wisdom.
It certainly is. Certainly is.
Yeah.
So, Greg, I really want to thank you for your time. Is there any question I didn't ask? I should have asked that as that. Any question that you can think of that I should have asked that I didn't ask?
No, I think we've got it pretty much covered.
Okay, great.
There's nothing else I can think of to give people advice, but that's my perspective. I mean, there's a lot of people that can offer advice. In the end, people kind of have to find their way. They just have to find out what works for them. As far as another thing that I would think of, that can contribute to someone that's just starting out to success is, what are they willing to do, and how much time are they willing to put in? Like you said, it's easy for people to point at someone and say, oh, he got lucky, or, oh man, he's really raking it in. He's doing so good, and they'll say that. But would they be willing? Are you a entrepreneurial person that wants to own and run a business? Do you have that mindset? Or are you an 8 to 5 person who only wants to put in 8 to 5 and then go home? Because if you just want to do an 8 to 5, you should probably work for somebody else, because it's completely different when you have to go. And it's hard for people that are, just 8 to 5 people to look at someone that's successful, and say, wow, look at them. They got it made. They're doing it. And think that they would actually do that themselves. I think that a lot of them are not willing. They're not willing to, to deal with the hardships, the roadblocks, the obstacles to overcome, and the time, because there becomes a perception of, well, I'm just putting in tons of my time for nothing. And in business, you will put in a lot of time for nothing. But in the end, like I said, you will succeed. If it's something that you like, and you set yourself up in a good situation where you can make it.
Right, and you're willing to persist, because that's really
And you're willing to persist, and you maintain the realistic financial budget. You don't want to be overexpended. You have to make the money to pay your bills. So you have to take that into consideration. You can't just bury yourself in debt and think I'm going to do great. You really have to have a feel for what kind of income you're going to make, and then, burden yourself with, debt according to that. And again, that's always going to be a little bit of a risk too. There's always going to be a little bit of a risk. But I think a lot of people fail because they overburden themselves with debt, and they can't make their payments.
right. So,
Okay.
quick plug for us. What has digital marketing done for your company? That's a good one for me.
You've done really good. You've got us in on the first page of a lot of searches. We're seeing a lot of response from our online marketing campaign. We're very happy with you. You've done very well.
I appreciate it, Greg. Yeah. So getting you in that top spot on Google for the Tesla auto repair, I'm sure that's helped out a lot. So basically what you hired us for. So we were really proud to be able to give you that result and then see the results in your business. So
Yeah.
okay. So anyway, so thanks a lot for
All
your time on Saturday, Greg. Really appreciate it.
Welcome. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you again when I'm back down in Florida. Don't know when that'll be, but
Okay. No problem.
See you next month.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
For additional automotive resources and exclusive content, follow us on Spotify and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch all our episodes. Thanks again for joining us in the driver's seat, and we'll see you next time for another thrilling episode of Top Shop.